guys, this is Shimmergloom, and this will be game 3 of a 3-game tournament played at Atomic Empire, and this time will be Orcs versus Lizardmen. This scenario is Dawn Attack. The main difference with this one is that there's 3 tokens. There's one in the center of the table, and then each player gets 1 token. You can give it to any of your core units to carry around. Each token is worth 300 victory points. If your unit has a token and flees or is broken or destroyed for any reason, they drop the token. So then at the end of the game, for each token you control, you get 300 victory points. But other than that, it's like a normal Dawn Attack. Now let's have a quick look at the 2 armies, and my army is of course the same with the last 2 games. Just scroll on through here. And my Lizardman opponent's army, he's got the Life Slam with all the trimmings, and he's got a big unit of Saurus, unit of Temple Guard, 3 units of Skirmishers and Skinks, a big unit of Ranked Skinks, a couple Salamanders, and some Chameleon Skinks. He also has the 2, basic Scarvets on cold ones with high armor and everything. They're very irritating things. And they're irritating, but they're really popular. And a lot of armies have something like this. And it seems like with Swedish comp, they don't really comp hit these things as much as they do ranked up units. So Scarvets like this can be very, very useful. Just like my Gigantic Spider, it's only -2. Now let's take a quick look at my deployment. With this Dawn Attack, I rolled for my Wolf Riders, 1 unit of Wolf Riders, and my Rock Lobber to be on the far right. On the left, I have my small unit of Night Goblins, 2 Spear Chuckers, and my Gigantic Spider. Then everything else except for the Troll rolled to be in the center, and the Trolls could be everywhere, anywhere. But I just put them aside the bigger unit because I needed to keep them in general and BSB range. The Rock Lobber being stuck on the right like that pretty much meant I was, sacrificing them to the Chameleon Skinks, because that was just the perfect place for the Chameleon Skinks to be scouting at, but there's like nothing I could do. I didn't want to put my Trolls all the way over there to try to protect the Rock Lobber, because then they'd be outside of, general and BSB range, so pretty much that Lobber was toast just from deployment. Now let's look at the Lizardman deployment, and he rolled for most of his stuff, his heavy stuff, to be on my left, and on my right he only has some Skinks and 1 Salamander, with the rest of the units being in the middle. So basically, because of the way we had rolled, our heavy stuff was almost like diagonal from each other. And a quick look at the Vanguards. Because of his Chameleons right there over that hill, I could only move the Wolf Riders up like a couple of inches, and you can see that one will push up a couple of inches. Otherwise I was already within 12 inches of the Chameleon, so I couldn't get any closer. And then the other Wolf Riders, I had moved them up because I thought any core unit could hold a token, but it's only ranked infantry or monster infantry that are core that could hold a token. So I was thinking, if I win first turn, I can run up with those Wolf Riders, grab the token, and then, with an 18-inch movement, I could zip back and have that token and try to get away. But I didn't pay any attention, and then later on I forget again. But they couldn't hold the token, so basically they're going to be skink fodder. So we go to Lizardman turn 1, and he just moves up some of his units, and that little skink unit right there in front of the token claims that token. When we go into Magic, he casts Throne of Vine's very high roll, so I'm already in a situation where do I need to scroll that, use up most of my dice to spell that, and then if I do, then basically he has to run to the rest of the Magic phase. So I decided to let him keep that, and then I dispel the toughness spell, but he gets the regen spell off on the Temple Guard. So that's just very irritating. There's just too much that a Life Slam can do that you can't really stop at all. And when we go into shooting though, and all those Skinks there shoot at my Wolf Riders, and they kill 4 of them, but I passed my panic test, so they get to stick around. But then on the other hand, his Chameleon Skinks were able to destroy my Rock Lobber. Going to Orcs and Goblins turn 1, I charged my big unit of Trolls at the Skinks to hold the token, and they flee and drop the token. I charged my single Troll at the next Skink unit. They stand and shoot and do 1 wound to the Troll. Then I charge my Wolf Rider at them and they hold, and I charge my Chariot at them, and then that's when they flee, and they're able to get away. I also, going into Magic, I try to put a Photogork on him, but he's able to spell it. And I forget to dispel Throne of Vines. I was trying to remember to do that. going into shooting, I try to shoot chuckas at his salamanders. I do no damage to him. One of my chuckas misfires and can't shoot this or next turn. My Doom Diver fires his chameleon skinks, hits, but only kills one. Now we have Lizardman turn 2. He's able to rally both his skink units, and then he takes his two Scarvets and takes them out of the unit. When he goes into magic, he's able to cast, I think something he cast on me. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I let it go through, and then I dispel his Throne of Vines after that, because I'm hoping he'll use more dice to try to cast that again, because he was running lower on dice, but he doesn't do that, and instead he gives himself back the regen, and then I think I have to burn my scroll on his plus toughness spell. When we're going into shooting, he's able to shoot one salamander on my big unit of trolls. I think he does a couple of wounds, and his other salamander I think was too far away to do anything, and most of the skinks have been fleeing, so they couldn't shoot. His javelin skinks in the big unit with the Croxagores shoot at one of my manglers and do a couple of wounds, and then his chameleons do one wound to my spear chucker. And I think I remember now, the spell he cast was something to my mangler squig where it's able to kill it. I think it was Ice Shard Blizzard or something like that, the one the skink priest has. I think that's what it was. Now we're into Orc and Goblin turn 2, and I charge my trolls again at his skinks. And I know they're going to keep fleeing, but I was concerned that they would, pick that token up, and with movement 6, they'd be able to pick it up and then move back around that impassable rocks there, and I would never be able to catch them. And they just have a 300-point victory point token that I could, never take away from them, basically. So I charge at them, and they flee. And then after that, I charge my gigantic spotter at one of his Scarvets. And at that time, the chariot couldn't see the other Scarvet, so I couldn't charge that at it. And I decided not to charge that at the big unit of Temple Guard, because then I could have charged that at Temple Guard, and then charge my Ragnarok at that Scarvet. But I was just thinking I was going to be throwing my chariot away, but I probably should have charged that and then charged my Ragnarok on into the Scarvet, but I didn't do that. Otherwise, when we get into the regular movement, rest of my movement, one of my manglers, my last mangler, is able to go through the big unit of skinks and Croxagores and kill a few of them. When we go into magic, I try to Photogork again, and I think I get it to go off, but it really does nothing. I go into shooting. One of my chuckas misfires, can't shoot this turn. But this time I do shoot my Doom Diver, his chameleon skinks, and I hit again, and I kill 4 of the 5 remaining. But then the last chameleon skink is able to pass this panic test. Now going into combat, my gigantic spider really does nothing to him with his high armor save. This is not the one that had the rerollable armor. But I do nothing to him, and I don't think he does anything to me. Or he might do one wound to me, but I think it's either draw or he just passes his breaks test. Going to Lizardman turn 3, he charges his other Scarvet into the flank of my Ragnarok. He charges his big unit of Croxagore skinks at my little Night Goblin unit. I flee them, and he redirects into one of my spear checkers on the hill. He rallies his skinks, and going into magic, he's able to get Throne of Vines in. I think it was +4 toughness up on his Temple Guard. I mean, they've basically been invulnerable the entire game. When he goes into shooting, he kills a few of my biggins with his salamander, and he's able to kill... I don't think he does anything to my Chucka with his last remaining chameleon skink. So then when we go into combat, he does 4 wounds to my Ragnarok with his Scarvet. I do absolutely nothing to him, but I'm able to hold. He then kills my gigantic spider guy. No, he does 1 more wound to it. I break and run, and he pursues me and destroys me. And he destroys my Chucka and then overruns up over the hill. At the end of the turn. And this is just a quick look at the end of the turn after all the combat. I was able to reform my Ragnarok to face his Scarvet there. But you can see I'm really starting to get surrounded. And I was trying to play defensively, but I also wanted to get off to that token though. But I was at this point starting to really get surrounded, and I didn't have much choice but to try to move up and try to take that token because I was already losing so much that was the only way I was going to be able to pull out a better, closer to a draw. Now when Orcs and Goblins turn 3, I charge his Scarvet with my biggin unit. I charge those skinks again. I just want to finally get them out of the way, and I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't roll so high in my charge so that I could see the flank of his temple guard, and I was hoping that on the next turn I'd be able to, wheel around that impassable terrain and then hit the flank of his temple guard, because I was planning on overrunning with my biggin unit. But I charged a little bit too much with the trolls, so they can't see that flank, so I was kind of hurt there. When we go into magic, I get Fist of Gork off on my Great Shaman, but I the rest of my dice at Ere We Go, but I don't get that off. He's able to dispel it. So when we go into shooting, I don't have that much left to shoot. My Doom Diver, I don't think it hits anything. The Chameleon Skink's now I think gotten too close to where I can't shoot at it. So we go into combat. I destroy his Scarvet, and I decide to overrun. If you look at the picture here, you'll notice that his Scarvet fighting my Ragnarok is in a position where his Kroxigor Skinks can't wheel around it and get the flank of me or my biggin unit. So I assume that his other big Sars unit will come into my biggins, but I'm not afraid of anything else. I figure if I can hold out a turn, then maybe I can start turning things around for myself. And this is, I figure, the only chance I really have to make any kind of win out of this game. So I decided to go ahead and overrun. But after I fight the combat with the Ragnarok, it's after this picture. You don't see it in this picture, but this is the way the Scarvet looks. He decides to reform his Scarvet by sliding it over. And there's nothing in the book that I can see that says you can't do this, but it wasn't something I was expecting. So by sliding it over down towards the bottom of the picture here, he's then able, in his turn, he's going to be able to wheel around that Scarvet and charge my biggin unit, which is something I wasn't expecting to do. And this is pretty much going to doom me for the game. So going to Lizardmen turn 4, and this is the picture that really matters. As you can see there at the bottom of the screen, you see how the Scarvet's no longer in the middle of my Ragnarok, it's down below. And this was able to let his Kroxigor Skinks wheel around it into my flank. And this is basically going to decide the game. My biggins now are completely surrounded. When we get into this combat, my Great Shaman, who has the Fist of Gork on him, he really whiffs and only kills one Temple Guard. He's strength 9 and their toughness 6 or 8. I don't even know anymore. But I still should kill at least 2 or 3, but I only kill one. And it really does seem like the deciding factor was his Kroxigor. I think it's just his Kroxigor killed 4 orcs. So it was like a 5 or 6 combat resolution swing. So I lose by about 10 when I would have lost by like about 5 or maybe 4 if those Kroxigor Skinks hadn't been in the flank there. So I might have been on a 5 with a reroll, which is very difficult but not impossible the way that double ones with a reroll is. So this is just look at the board after that combat. I was on double ones with a reroll. I fail it. I break and I get cut down. So at this point I just decided to concede the game and make it a 16-4. I really was not going to do any more. And since it was last game I knew I couldn't get to 3rd place, there was no point in me trying to play it out and get a 5 or a 6 instead of a 4. So I just go ahead and concede now. And so there we have it. It's a 16-4 victory for the Lizardmen. I probably shouldn't have overrun, but I really had no expectation that he'd be able to get around that Ragnarok and get my flank. And even though I knew I was probably still outmatched, it was one of those situations where you try so hard to get to grips with Temple Guard, and when you finally can, you just go for it and you don't think about the consequences. And I was just thinking to myself, I've got Fist of Gork on my Great Shaman with Fencer's Blades. I got 2 big bosses with great weapons and a ton of biggins. Maybe I can do something. It's like my only chance to do anything against those Temple Guard. And so I'll charge in. I wasn't really worried about the SARS coming in. I just wanted to get into grips with those Temple Guards, see what would happen. But basically, because those Kroxigors could come to flank, it just doomed me, and I was just pretty much taken out in one combat phase. And so we come to the end of another battle report, and thanks to Evil Ian and his Lizardmen, I get dropped to the bottom 3 of the tournament. But I'd like to thank everybody for listening, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And feel free to subscribe and like and make any comments. And I'll see you guys next time. I probably won't get a chance to play again until Southern Assault. I'm busily trying to make up a good list, but I'm hoping to take pictures, and I'm hoping that I'm able to make a bunch of battle reports for it. So I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for listening.